Tonight's episode of 48 Hours NCIS takes you inside the investigation into the sudden disappearance of a U.S. Marine's wife. One NCIS agent shows his true commitment and laser focus when it comes to crimes involving family members of someone serving in the Navy or Marines. The NCIS mission is crystal clear. Here's a sneak peek.
Police research warrant.
Being an NCIS case agent is a very personal commitment. You have to make sacrifices. It takes you away from your loved ones. So it's just a singular focus on pursuing justice.
This was a once-in-a-lifetime case. Some of the darkness and some of the twisted motivations behind this case was overwhelming. April 2012, NCIS had assigned me to be a liaison to the San Diego Sheriff's Homicide Department. I was working cold case homicides and any active homicides that had some involvement with the Navy Marine Corps.
Over the course of this investigation, you lived the case. Brittany Kilgore was the wife of a Marine.
Brittany was a very young, attractive girl. She was 22 years old. She was very naive, came from a very small town, and so she had very few friends, and she was alone in California, very far from home.
Brittany lived in a town called Fallbrook, California. It was about 40 minutes north of downtown San Diego, and it was just outside of Marine Base Camp Pendleton. Her husband was deployed. He was in Afghanistan. And at the time, their relationship wasn't the best. And she had decided that she wanted a divorce and was going to move back home.
She was packing. She gets this unexpected visitor who shows up at her door, Luis Perez. Someone who she knew was a casual acquaintance.
Luis Perez was 47 years old. He was a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps.
And he was inviting her to go on a cruise, a dinner cruise called the Hornblower Cruise.
And she just told him, no, I don't want to go. I'm moving. And then Luis Perez said, well, I'll help you move if you go on the dinner cruise with me.
She said no multiple times to Perez. She told him she didn't want to go. She didn't feel comfortable with him. She obviously had that gut feeling.
And he basically propositions her again, go on this cruise with me, and I'll get you some Marines to come and help you move your things.
Perez had a girlfriend, Dorothy Maraglino.
She did not want to go on what seemed like a dinner date with someone else's boyfriend. She was worried how that would look. Lewis had Dorothy get in touch with Brittany and say, it's okay with me, I was going to go, I don't feel good, you can go on this cruise.
So after Brittany gets the approval of Dorothy, she agrees to go on the dinner cruise with Luis Perez. Brittany had no idea what she was getting into that night.
At 7:40 p.m. on Friday night, April the 13th, Luis Perez drives into the apartment complex where Brittany lives. She comes down, gets inside his vehicle, he drives away, and within 10 minutes of getting into his vehicle, she reaches out to her friend and says, help.
Luis Perez had two lives going on. He had dual lives.
Luis Perez did have a dark past. This was no 50 Shades of Grey at all.
I will never understand why that she didn't listen to her gut. Evil doesn't look like evil.
Brittany was never going to get on that cruise. They were never going to make that cruise. In fact, they never even left Fallbrook.
My colleague Rena Ninan spoke to actor Rocky Carroll about this episode. He plays the NCIS director on the series and is the narrator of the 48 Hours broadcast.
Rocky, how fast exactly did NCIS jump in on this case?
Actually, NCIS was on this case from day one. This investigation to find Brittany was a 4 days sleepless race against the clock. NCIS, they ran search missions and they interrogated practically every Marine at Camp Pendleton. So within a few days, nearly 100 people were involved in this investigation.
It seems like this case takes a very dark turn. What exactly happens?
This was a tough case for NCIS agents because it involves a very bizarre deviant subculture. The NCIS agents actually had to learn. They had to learn about the subculture in order to investigate it. But it turns out that this was far from 50 Shades of Grey.
Far from 50 Shades of Grey.
Far from it, yes.
But very deviant. And when you talk about exactly how dark this culture is, did they ever end up solving this case?
Well, actually they did, because they had an NCIS agent who was embedded with the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. And when these two forces were combined, when they combined their resources, they were unstoppable.
Rocky Carroll, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And you can watch the full 48 Hours NCIS episode, A Date with Evil, tonight at 10 Eastern, 9 Central.